A year ago, Ryan Trahan spent a night in the world's smallest Airbnb, measuring it at literally 25 square feet. And so, in this video, I'm going to be building him the new world's smallest Airbnb, measuring it at just 15 square feet. So here's the plan. Build the world's smallest Airbnb, fitted with running water, a stove that lights, and a toilet. Get it listed on Airbnb, and surprise Ryan Trahan with it. How hard can it be? So I headed to every Aussie's favourite place to get materials to build this thing. And that is everything I have to work with. It is terrifying how much money that pile of wood cost me. And to think, over the next few days, it's going to turn into the new world's smallest Airbnb. And so I got to work measuring and cutting the first few pieces. But I didn't really have a plan. Now, if you're wondering how I know how to build this kind of thing, the answer is, I don't. I actually don't even know how to operate a power tool, let alone drill or cut through any piece of wood. But what I have been doing is watching YouTube videos. And it looks like every inside of a wall of a house has some sort of inner frame. So I'm gonna try copy that. With that said, I'll be using this pallet that I so deviously licked from a nearby hardware store as the base of the house. Then 4 very normal walls. And that's about all I had at that point. So I went back to building, if that's what you could call it. I have no idea what I'm doing. And before long, I ran into my first problem. This is the longest screw I have. And you'll notice it isn't long enough, which is kind of a problem because the nearest every Aussie's favourite store is a 3-hour round trip and the sun is already setting. However, there is a nearby hardware store. It's the one I stole from. So I quickly headed down there and got him. Before long, I had the first wall done. Hell yeah. Then it was time for the door frame, which wasn't quite as simple. I just can't seem to get these screws right. And you would think it would not be that difficult, but I keep getting them in on an angle. And after staring aimlessly at my wonky unfinished door frame, it's now 11:30 and I just had the big spotlights turn off on me and I cannot figure out how to turn them back on. Looks like it's going to be the end of day 1. I think this is going to be a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But while I was sleeping, it came to me. That ain't level. Much better. So I moved everything and it was time to get back to it. The first order of business is to fix this door frame, which meant remeasuring and recutting pretty much every piece. But the vision was coming to life, sort of.
When I get the whole layout, no. Don't you need to close this part in?
At least I was starting to see it. And with the help of level ground, they work so much better. It wasn't long before the door frame is done. It's a little janky, but Ryan, I swear it's safe, man. I swear it's safe. Which meant it was finally time to start attaching the frames to the base. It's solid. It is rock solid. But that victory didn't last. I've just realized that I really shouldn't have done that yet. Let me explain. There's obviously going to be some sort of roof here. I have no idea, absolutely none, of how to now build that when the walls are already up. There's no denying that this was a doozy, but after a while, I had a realization. If I actually want Ryan Trahan to spend a night in this thing, then it has to be perfect. And the more I looked, the more I realized it was far from perfect. So I had a decision to make. I got it. I know what I have to do. I have to start again. What? Why? Let me explain. I've been doing this whole thing wrong. I've been on my own, sawing, using an actual hand saw. It's just not working. So I need to go get the right stuff. Which meant making that 3-hour round trip and getting entirely new supplies and tools. Day 3. I now have power tools and I've asked for help. My new crack team and I got to taking apart my last 2 full days worth of work and then started putting a floor in the house. That's good. Because somehow on my first try, I forgot that houses need floors. Anyway, we were flying. Who knew there was a less primitive way of cutting wood? And I was feeling great until...
What's all this shit?
This is Brett. He's been building houses for longer than I've been alive, and in the time it's taken me to introduce him, he's finished this one. Just kidding, but somehow I managed to convince him to help me. And after a few more minutes, all 4 pillars are up. What took me 2 days is now been done in 2 hours. We kept charging on at the same pace, piecing together the inner frame. And I tell you, watching this man work was incredible. It was just measure, saw, screw, measure, saw, screw. He was an absolute machine. Did you shoot the whole thing in one go? That's impressive. I wonder if I can get it all.
One shot, boom.
With my pile of wood beginning to resemble a house, it was time to start on the interior. And of course, the bed.
What are you going to do with the mattress when you fold it down? It's just going to fall off.
Which wasn't all that simple.
It's not going to fit.
Well, I do kind of have to have somewhere to sit / sleep.
Well, you might have to sit on the toilet sleep, mate.
Once you have a couple of beers,
I think we can show that night.
Oddly enough, fitting a bed in a space that you can hardly stand in is kind of tough.
I think it's too wide too.
Could it fold up and then latch here somehow? But after a while, it was Brett who prevailed.
I think I have an idea. So it's going to fold up.
Yep.
When it unfolds, it will fold flat with these hinges flat.
Yeah.
2 ropes going back to the roof. That'll be
Okay,
support.
that's clever.
So now we cut the board.
And cut the board we did. If you were at all having trouble visualizing just how small this house is, well,
It'll work.
like the rest of the house, Brett installed the bed with the utmost precision.
That's bluff. And then there's 10 mil over there.
It's the cut of the wood.
It is the cut of the wood. Don't listen to anyone.
The frame and all the interior done, now we just have to put the walls up. Thankfully they went up a lot easier than the bed. And once we shaved them down using this spinny power tool thing, it was really starting to take shape.
That's pretty shit off.
So I wanted to show it to a couple of people.
Hello?
Want to have a look at something cool?
No roof.
Hello, Tyler. Yeah, that's very good, mate.
I'm currently laying in the toilet of what will be the world's smallest Airbnb. And I think this is all a testament for knowing how to ask for help. See, I would not have been able to get anywhere near this on my own. So sometimes you need to ask people who know what they're doing, and sometimes you just need to ask for help with things. Alright, see you tomorrow.
With the phrase
There's my boy. There's my boy. There's my boy.
still ringing in my ears from the night before, we started putting the final touches on the house, including a roof, some way over the top plumbing, and a door. But
If we cut the top and the bottom,
It's 2 weak, 4 bits.
apparently, much like surfboards, cheap doors have stringers that run through the middle of them, and if you cut them, well, they fall to bits. But we had no choice. So as Brett started sliding an incredibly sharp blade spinning at 1300 revs a minute through our only door, without even any shoes on, my heart was pounding.
if we lift up, it didn't fall apart.
But we weren't out of the woodwork yet.
That's a big gap.
Yep.
Despite so many people working on this house, not one managed to spot the massive difference between the width of the door and the door frame.
Don't you need to close this part in?
No. Thankfully, Brett had a pretty handy dandy solution, which only left one thing. It's almost done, we have to paint it, but it has to be painted outside. Unfortunately, something we didn't think about is this to this. With a little Aussie ingenuity, we managed to slide it out and get it into place. Now we just gotta paint it. Finally, I would like to welcome you to the world's smallest Airbnb. Please, come inside. I cannot believe how well this thing turned out. You have everything you need to live in here. From an induction stovetop, running water, and even a toilet. I couldn't have asked for it to look any better. Now we just have to list it on Airbnb and surprise Ryan Trahan with it. With a couple clickety clacks on the keyboard, you can now book to stay in Ryan Trahan's very own world's smallest Airbnb, which just leaves getting him to spend the night in it. So I have some bad news. It's been 2 weeks since we finished building this thing, and I have tried everything I can to get in touch with him. From DMing him, emailing him, I even emailed his manager, and I still haven't heard a thing back. So I have a plan. Ryan, you have 1 week to respond to this video. Otherwise, I will be spending 24 hours trapped inside of it myself and making a video about it. So if you're interested in that, subscribe. Otherwise, this has been me building Ryan Trahan his very own world's smallest Airbnb. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Tyler, you're killing me.